Shabbat Shalom on this Parshat Tissa. Tissa. Oh boy, there's a whole lot of shaking going on in our latest episode of As the Torah Turns. In Tissa, the Kohanim are given yet more instructions of how to do their sacred task in the Mishkan. Oh boy, and then a lot more goes on. Well, what happens, of course, is Moshe, a tete-a-tete. He's downloading right from the mainframe, receiving not only Aseret HaDibrot, not only the Ten Commandments, but the entirety of the ways in which we're supposed to have these spiritual tools to attach and reattach ourselves to do teshuvah from each moment that we breathe. But you know what happens when Moshe is up there? He says, I'll be gone for 40 days and 40 nights. That's an interesting number, is it not? The number 40 reoccurring again. But what happens is something that I referred to a while ago, which is that he doesn't come back at the exact moment that he promised to come back. So what is the natural thing to do, right? You know, if Renee doesn't come home or call me, I freak out. That's the first thing I do and picture the worst that is happening. Do I not? Well, that's a very natural thing. But let's go back to actually what Moshe was accomplishing up there on Sinai. Ushmatem et ha-Shabbat ki kodeshi. You shall keep the Sabbath, for it is holy for you, one of the mitzvot that we are given. Of course, lighting candles, not exactly given. That's d'Rabbanan. That's the rabbinic mitzvah that has carried over to this day. As the rabbis understood even a different way that we can attach ourselves and be reminded and bring us into this mikvah that is Shabbat. What else? What else is part of this parsha? Well, of course, V'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. B'nei Yisrael, the children of Israel, shall keep the Shabbat, and here we are, observing Shabbat, and here we are, throughout the ages, and here we are, as a brit, as a covenant for all time. So Shabbat, too, is a sign, right? It's a sign. It is a covenant. It is a connecting point between us and divinity. But then it happens. Moshe's up there a little bit too long for the people's anxiety starts to set in. Moshe ha'ish asher elanu mi'eretz Mitzrayim. Moshe, you know, that man, that Ish, you know that guy who brought us out from the land of Egypt? Lo yad'u me hayalo. We don't know what happened to him. So let's go into our default. Let's freak out, which is what they do. And of course, they build that golden calf. Now, please keep in mind that the women did not give their jewelry, did not give their gold to the making of this. So as usual, blame the guys, because we do deserve the guy. And they yell out at this golden calf, this is the God, O Israel, which brought us out of the land of Egypt. They needed something concrete. Pun intended, though it wasn't concrete, it was gold. But they needed something to point to that they can touch, that they can feel. We have an invisible God. We see God's actions in the world, but it's kind of tough for us, you know, as Jews. This is an moment in Torah, is it not? It is a big moment, because, you know, God gets angry, if only for a brief moment. But in that moment, that anger can wipe out entire worlds, and that's what God proposes to do. V'yata hanichali, let me be, v'yachar api v'ahem v'achala, that my anger may blaze up. It's like in your nose. It's like, think of like an ox. You know, and God getting very angry in that way. They're going to do away with these people. I'm going to destroy them. I'm going to eat them up. Va'achalem. I'll make ochel of them, of food of them, and I'll eat them up. And you, Moshe, ve'eseh otcha legoy gadol. I'll make you a great nation. In other words, I'll start all over again. This is indeed an uh-oh moment. What does Moshe do? This is a moment that Moshe responds to the same call that Queen Esther, Hamalka. Maybe it was for this that you were born. Maybe it was for this moment. And Moshe implores Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh, saying, let not your anger, God, blaze against the people, for you delivered from the land of Egypt with great power and a mighty hand. Remember, God, who you are? Moshe, he's a pretty smart cookie. He reminds God what God did and who God is, and the Egyptians, they're going to they're going to laugh at this. Oh, look, God wiped out those people. And then Moshe takes it even a step further, right? V'yata im Tissa chatachtem. If you forgive their sin, well and good, but if not, mechenina, erase me, misifrecha asher katavta, from the record, from the book, from the Sefer HaChaim, from the book that you have written. In other words, Moshe is saying, kill me now. Turn from your blazing anger and renounce the plan to punish your people. This is Jewish chutzpah at its highest, eh? What happens? Of course. V'yinachem Adonai al hara asher diber lasot li'amoho, and Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh renounced the punishment planned for God's people. It works. Moshe steps into the moment for which he was born. And of course, for Moshe, there are many moments such as this. So I'm going to ask you a question here. What is the difference between Moshe's response to divinity's threat to destroy Bnei Yisrael and Noah's response to divinity's threat to destroy all of humanity? What's the difference between the two in the way that they respond? Well, of course, we know the difference. Noah gets busy building an ark to save his family and all the animals 2 by 2, or actually 4 by 4, because he has to also save the kosher animals as well for the sacrificing later. Let's take a little deep dive into this, into the concept of gilgul haNefesh. What is it? Reincarnation or transmigration of souls. You didn't know that was a Jewish thing, did you? Well, it is. In fact, in the Zohar teaches us as long as a person is unsuccessful in his purpose in this world, and I'll add, in this lifetime, the Holy One uproots him and replants him over and over again. Our eternal soul gets turned over into a different lifetime. We get uprooted from our physical manifestation and replanted over and over again until what? Until we get it right. Until... Devar, you got it. Until we get it. Until we have fulfilled the unique mission that each of us has in this lifetime. A mission that it's for us only. And you remember what Yogi said? It's like deja vu all over again. Now, one of my favorite groups from the 70s, since I alluded to Santana before, also alluded to this.
And I feel
like I've been here before. Like I've been here before. And I know a very dear friend of mine right here in this room has done some past life work. The mystics teach that Moshe was a gilgul of Noach, who had failed to pray on behalf of his generation in order to save them from the great flood. He thus, meaning Noah, had to come back again as Moshe in order to rectify his earlier sin by praying to save the Jewish people after they'd worshipped the golden calf and were in danger of being annihilated. The Kabbalists write that Moshe in his new incarnation lived for how long? 120 years, corresponding to the 120 years that God delayed the flood in order to give Noah a chance to pray for his generation, and which Moshe was now being given the opportunity to rectify. And the holy Arizal, Isaac Luria, adds that just as Noah was saved from the great flood in a teva, in an ark, so too was baby Moses saved in a teva, a basket, in the Nile River. Such teaches Rabbi David Zoder. Isn't that really, really cool? And as Rabbi Chaim Vital writes in his book, Sha'ar HaGilgulim, The Gate of Reincarnations, many of the interactions that we have in this world with other human beings are based on previous interactions we had in a different life that we need to rectify. So the next time you run into somebody and you go, this feels familiar, right, Dee? It very well be that it was for this moment that you are alive. And so, my sweet friends, coming into a landing here with a story about the Baal Shem Tov. Once, a poor man complained to the Baal Shem Tov about his suffering, and the rabbi sent him to a certain man in a distant town that might be able to help him. When he arrived and asked directions to the man's house, one person after another spat and cursed at the mention of his name. Finally, he reached the house only to have the door slammed in his face, and after pleading with the owner of the house for an explanation, he was told that the man he wants, a terrible miser hated by all, died long ago. Bewildered, the man returned to the Baal Shem Tov and told him what happened. And the Besht looked him square in the eyes and said, "The man you were looking for was you." And the man realized the reason for his poverty and started giving whatever he had to charity. Eventually, this man was able to give extensively. And so, my sweet friends, we recall that beyond our Jewish texts, there are many, many, many others of different faiths or no faith who have connected to their past lives. So on this Shabbos day, may we be blessed to identify what each of us needs to rectify in this lifetime, acting with the courage of Moshe, willing to confront God on behalf of others and on behalf of ourselves. Shabbat Shalom.